Three, two, one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a business podcast on global PropTech, where we talk to PropTech founders and CEOs from all over the globe and learn from them how they build and grow successful PropTech companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me an exciting guest all the way from UK, Rashid. Rashid, your second name is would be pronounced. I forgot to ask this. Aliyev. Is that how it is?
Exactly. Yeah, you did it
Excellent.
right.
Rashid is the co-founder and CEO at Stackt. It's a one-click moving and storage service. I will keep the definition at that because we will hear from Rashid what exactly is the business all about. But before we formally welcome Rashid, request to all my listeners out here, lovely listeners who have shown enormous support in the last several months, that keep that love flowing in, hit that like and subscribe button because the more people like and subscribe, the wider the audience reaches out, and we want these messages, these exciting interviews to reach out to wider audience. We are also on audio only content. If you go to Spotify, look for PropTechBuzz and you will find us. So hit that follow there and leave some good reviews. With that, let's welcome Rashid. Rashid, welcome to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Looking forward to this. We ran into a few hiccups. We could not, once it was from your end, the other time it was at my end, but eventually I'm so happy that we actually all coming in.
Yes, finally we did it. That's the most important, right?
And yeah, I'm very, very excited and keen. But before we talk about Stack and stuff, business stuff, I'm very keen to know about your personal career trajectory and your transition story of what led you to build Stack.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. With respect to my story, well, I'm coming from Azerbaijan, from Baku, and I moved. Well, this is where I was born, and started at school, and then once I graduated from my high school, I essentially moved to London, came here to study to pursue my bachelor's, and so I got to UCL, studied there, and I graduated from UCL. And during my studies at UCL, I was doing information management for business course, which was essentially a combined IT and business course. And during my study years at UCL, I was the president of UCL Azerbaijan Business Society, which essentially we were organizing large scale events. By large scale, I mean these are speaker events primarily for, well, usually that was around from 400 up to 700 people, with the top tier business people and politicians coming and speaking and sharing their experience and vision with our audience. Usually these events were open to everyone, whether you are regardless of whether you are a student or a young professional, whoever you are. So you just got a ticket and come by, and that was a great experience because that's probably where it was my kind of small project to a certain extent, because we still had a good team of 5 people. So we had certain budgets to organize all these events and everything. So that's, I think, was where it all started. And I was very much interested in business from my very early years, because I'm coming from a very entrepreneurial family. So my brother is an entrepreneur, my dad is an entrepreneur. So that's why from the very early years, I was very passionate about business. And for me, UCL Azerbaijan Business Society was a great platform for that. Specifically, platform in being able to invite all these people and coming and speaking at the university, and also at the same time building my personal relationships with them, because most of the speakers eventually became my personal mentors as a result. And that was essentially the reason, and probably the time when I really realized that value of having the right people around yourself, in a sense that I was very passionate about the value of having the right people in your surrounding, right? And specifically if you're doing a business, and specifically if you are an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey in essence, and I think all the founders would agree with me, because it's a very challenging, it's a very dynamic, with its own rewards, but its own challenges as well. And it is crucially important having the right people next to you that are going through the same journey as you are, that could support you and guide you on the certain levels and challenges that you face. So this is how I came up with my first project that I was working on as soon as I graduated from university, which was essentially a community for entrepreneurs, which essentially was a business community of a certain level of entrepreneurs. And these people were essentially selected. They should have had a certain threshold with respect to the turnover of the business, number of the employees. And once they get in, we were organizing a set of regular events for them. And that was, well, I graduated from UCL in 2019, which you probably guessed that it was just before the pandemic hit. And our business model was very much in the events industry, because we were organizing all these physical events. And just before we fully and officially launched, the grand opening ceremony was planned to take place in May, I think, in 2020. Lockdown happened, and London went into lockdown, which essentially resulted that we couldn't really do any events. And when we tried to pivot that in an online format, we quickly enough understood that it wouldn't really work, because all of a sudden you start competing with all the online resources that you have out there, while our main value proposition was about actually bringing the people in the room physically and having those physical interactions in place and building those relations in a physical environment. And this is when essentially the idea and the very origin of Stackt launched, because this is when we quickly enough understood that that business club is not going anywhere soon, and essentially we have to look after. We have to find something else, right? I was in London, and what we realized quickly enough is that a lot of students, they left London during pandemic, right? So everyone left sometime in March, and everyone was leaving and flying off back home, thinking that they're leaving for a month, right? But what happened in practice, that they left and the borders closed, and they were literally stuck abroad for a month, like 3, 4, 5 months, while they were forced to continue paying for their rent, because when they were leaving, they never imagined that they're actually going back home for so long. And once their contract and contractual agreements with their dorms or apartments or flats was coming to an end, they couldn't really vacate that, and they were forced to continue paying for their rent for that. And this is essentially, that was just an idea that came to us and my partner by then. Is okay. Let's help this people out. Let's see if we can help them out to vacate their apartments and pack their items and take it to somewhere. And I think this is where it actually started from, in the sense that we posted a story in Instagram with a phone number saying that, guys, if anyone has this problem and needs some help with with their apartments that are left here in London, give us a shout. And quickly enough, we end up having a bunch of people, literally like tens and tens of people messaging us and saying that. And because we had that connection with the student community because of the society, so people had that element of trust to a certain extent, right? Probably if there would be someone else that have never, didn't know us, that didn't trust us, they wouldn't really trust us going to their dorms and packing all these items without their physical presence. So we were lucky on that end, and people trust us, and they message us, and we decide, okay, let's go and help these people out. So quickly enough, fast forward 3-4 months, we've been to probably 60 or 70 different apartments, packing all these boxes by ourselves at first, literally packing them, getting in there with a video call with the customers, packing all these items, and then putting in an Uber first, and then moving to a different location. And then we started outsourcing people, bringing some movers on board. And
I still need to understand. So what was it that you were helping them with? So they had left their apartment without realizing that they are stuck, and they have to pay forced rents without staying. So now
Exactly.
they need to vacate their apartment. So you went in and you became the
Yeah.
movers and packers for them.
Well, essentially, when we were starting it, we didn't know what is the actual need, right? We didn't know what's the value proposition was all about. So the very first few customers was just like, let's see how we can help these people out. And they had a very clear problem, and that was the pain, right? Like, someone needs to come and pack their items and take it to storage, right? So this is what we did. We just came into the dorm.
But take it where? Take it where?
Either take it to a storage or take it to another location of theirs, right? They asked us, can you take it and take it to storage, or take it to another apartment, or take it to my friend's place, for example. Like there were a number of options by then. And essentially, yeah, when we were just coming and packing all these items at first by ourselves, because for us, we didn't know what the business process is all about, right? And having packed tens of different apartments and dorms by ourselves at first, we very much understood all the internal processes. We very much understood what the pain, what is the actual pain about. We started, as we continued, getting more and more apartments and customers, we started outsourcing the actual packaging and moving part. So we started bringing self-employed movers that helped us packing all these items and then putting it into their van and taking it to a second location. But because we were just starting it, we were literally attending every single job in person, so that to make sure that it goes smooth and we control everything and we understand. And I think this moment was very crucial for us in terms of understanding our business model from A to Z, in a sense that this is the time when we actually started speaking to customers, asking them, why wouldn't you go to any other provider? Speaking to, at the same time, what pain points do they actually have? Speaking to our movers, trying to understand what are their pain points with respect to when they work with other moving and storage companies, right? So kind of understanding what's the opportunity in there, what is the hook. And quickly enough, having done that for a couple of months, I would say for the first 5 or 4 months, I would say, we did a really good result though, right? Like we generated over, I think revenue wise, we generated over 160K and did like a couple hundred orders. And what was really fascinating for us was that, well, we live in a very technologically infused world, right? If you want to order some food, you just take your phone, press do a couple clicks, and your food is being delivered to you. You want to order something from Amazon, you can do that with a matter of clicks, right? However, when you need to move or store something, it feels like you go back in time by 100 years or 50 years, because all of a sudden there is no proper solution that you can go to. All the current providers are super old school and traditional. There's no technological integration or technological customer journey at all, right? So it all happens super manually, inefficiently. You have to waste a lot of time. At the same time, the main point is that you're actually paying a lot of money for a very low quality of service. And that was essentially fascinating for us, right? Because when you look at it, this market is actually is growing. And it's not only about, well, currently we don't do residential movings only, but it's essentially a platform for transporting any bulky item from A to Z, right? Whether you bought a sofa and we partnered with that furniture retailer shop and they just need to deliver that to you. So that was very much fascinating to us, and we quickly enough understood that, okay, if we integrate a certain technological layer into this very old school and traditional industry, we can really build a very scalable and global business out of it without any, heavy capex, while building like a technological layer and operate as a tech platform, essentially, very operational light business, which will allow, again, this old school industry and old school, business model to convert into a very scalable and profit making and global business. And this is how we launched it from.
So Rashid, help me understand, because for me it is hard to imagine what is the inefficiency with the status quo. Okay, with the incumbents, I have moved a lot of. I've never purchased an apartment of mine. I've lived in different countries. So I would call movers and packers. They would send their folks. They would pack things and then they'd move. So where are the opportunities? Because sometimes when you are getting a shitty service, you feel this is the best, right? So you have to show them a new world to imagine or how things could be much better. So where the inefficiencies, and what are the technological layer that you are talking about?
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me take you through a customer journey, right? In a sense that imagine yourself being, whether you live in a rent, right? That you don't necessarily need to purchase a house. Well, on average, Generation Z and millennials, they move over 10 times during their lifetime, and around 50% of them actually approximately move once a year from place to place. Like in London, the average tenancy length is around a year. And therefore, you're actually moving from one place to another. But again, it's not about even movings only, but it's also whether you need to transport any bulky item from one place to another. You bought a sofa, you bought a plant, whatever that doesn't fit into your regular vehicle. And you need a van for that. This is essentially where we come into play. So the main problem that you're facing here, right, is whenever you need to move or whenever you need to move something bulky, there are two options that you can go to. One, you have to go to traditional, old school, as we call it, removal companies, right? And
so I do not know how it is in you. We call it movers and packers back in India and stuff like that. Is it not movers and?
Yeah, it's like traditional removal companies, right? Removal companies or the man and the van services, whatever. Just the removal companies, right? Like it's essentially a very traditional removal company that has a fleet of vans and a couple of people that essentially can come and pack and move your items. So the problem that you're getting with them is that the service that you're paying for is super expensive. So they would charge you like £600-700 for a single move. At the same time, the level of service is relatively low, right? So essentially what you end up paying is that it's a lot of money from a very low quality service. If you decide, okay, I don't want to go with removal companies, I want to find something more affordable, and you decide finding some man in the van. So essentially just self-employed man, right, from Gumtree, for example, that can potentially help you move your items. It's relatively cheaper in comparison to removal companies, right? Because it's not a company, it's just a self-employed person. The problem that you face here is that you end up dealing with, unreliable, in most of the cases, the risk of having an unreliable person that doesn't really speak your language, doesn't have any insurance. Even the fact that it will actually come and appear, come and start the job in time is the likelihood is quite low because there's no one you can really trust, right? For example, you make a booking, you agree with him over the phone, you need to move a vacate your flat, but he doesn't arrive. What would you do, right? All of a sudden you need to find someone. And at the same time, the level of service is also very low. And that's the problem here, is that in both of the cases, one option is expensive with low quality of service. The other one is cheap, but even worse level of service. And there's, this huge gap. And this is essentially why statistically, if you even ask your friends around, the ones that have ever moved or used man and van service in London or anywhere else in the world, in 9 out of 10 cases, they would say that was a terrible experience. That was a stressful experience, and they don't want to deal with that anymore. And that's essentially the problem they're fixing, because now when you need moving service, you just come to us, you go to the website, you fill the details, you tell me, I'm moving on this date, I'm moving from here, I'm moving to that location, I live on a 3rd floor with lift, and I'm moving to a 2nd floor with no lift, and there is a parking, etc., etc. So based on and you essentially give us the list of all the items that you have. Based on all these details, our algorithmic calculator is able to calculate exactly how long your move will take place, taking into consideration the traffic on that specific time and day, whenever you decided to move. And then we give you with this accurate price, which essentially says, this is the time when your mover will arrive. This is how long it will take them to move your items, and this is how much you'll be paying for this specific time. And you are, as a customer, on the day of the move, you receive a link. You can track your mover and see how far is he, where is he. We internally are able to track all the analytics behind it. Our movers have their own mobile application, and essentially we can track all the route, we can track the loading time and all the analytics that we necessarily need. And with every single move that we actually execute and deliver, our accuracy in terms of calculation, it improves, because so far we did over 3,000 orders, and essentially all this data is fed back into the calculator and making sure that historical data fits and improves our accuracy when we move that. Because we now, based on all this data that we have, we know up to 95% accuracy. How long does it usually take to take a sofa from 3rd floor to a ground floor, for example, if you have a lift or if you don't have a lift? How long it takes to take your items and drive to the second point? How long it takes to unload? So we're providing you with a full customer journey and super easiness, in a sense that you just come and say, I'm moving from here, I'm moving there, this is my items. That's it. You have a fixed price that you pay once. As soon as you make a payment, on the day of your move, we connect you with our self-employed movers that will come and move you from A to Z. That's it. If your move takes longer, you just paid for that extra minutes up until the minute. For example, we've quoted you for 2.5 hours, and if your move takes 2 hours and let's say 37 minutes, you would just pay for the extra 7 minutes. So it's full transparency, full peace of mind. You don't have to stress about anything. And if in case something goes wrong during your move, you always have customer service in place where you can give them a call, message them, email us, and they'll be happy to help you right away. And essentially, yeah, this is what we do with the moving part. We have the storage part, which is the second part and primary part of our business. But with respect to moving part, well, again, they are over. If just we look at the numbers, there are over 2.5 million vans in the UK. There are over 30 million vans in Europe, and the problem is that they're all operated chaotically. There is no one tech solution for them. It's just, it's all chaotic. You don't know who to go to, how, there's no technological journey in there at all. And our main value proposition there is essentially providing a certain tech layer for them that allows them to, it's also convenient for the movers because they know how it works for them. They get the job, they accept it. They know what to expect on the job. They know when they're going to get paid, how much they're going to get paid, and guaranteed that they will be paid for that. At the same time, peace of mind for the customer on the other end, if that makes sense.
Sure. Before we move to the storage, so I was trying to understand why accuracy of delivery time, but now I understand that the cost of delivery is a function of the number of hours or the time that you take, right? Is that how it is?
Exactly. So essentially, based on all those data and details about your move that you give us, we algorithmically are able to calculate exactly how long move will take place, and therefore how much you would have to pay for the work of these movers. And then we essentially charge a commission from these movers. And essentially, for your better understanding, it's essentially Uber for moving and storage services.
Perfect. Uber plus you would also account for timings for packaging and unpacking. Unpacking is not involved, I suppose, right? It is just delivery.
We can do that in exceptional cases, but it's not our primary service. So we can do packing for sure, but we don't get that many orders when people actually ask us to unpack. There are some technical difficulties with the actual unpacking part of the service. So we don't do that often, and we don't even advertise it as within our service portfolio. But yes, we can definitely do the packing.
Let's look at the capex. So the fleet, people, the resources, and all the stuff, all the packing material that is required, all that is yours, or how is it? Or do you outsource it? Do you have partners?
We as a business, we are super capex light. We're capex light and operational light business. So that means that all these people are self-employed people.
Mm-hmm. So what is from your end? It's only the tech stack and the software.
Yes, exactly. So essentially, that software, that the ability to calculate with that accuracy essentially that tech element that we have, whether for the customers that we allow them to go and put all their details and get their price right away in seconds and make a booking. And on the other end, it's the mobile application for our movers.
So people are booking through Stackt, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It's not a white label solution that you give to some of these self-employed people who can run their own business. No,
people come and book their services and Stackt, and Stackt connects them with our self-employed movers that are connected to the platform.
All right. So I can understand that you have complete control, or you have efficiency control in terms of delivery time and stuff like that. How do you have a control on the people, the resources? Okay, how do you ensure that they are qualified, they are doing their job well and stuff like that?
They're all going through a number of verification checks and verification steps before gaining the access to the platform. whether with respect checking their insurance documents, DBS checks, background checks, license checks, driving license checks. So there are a number of very deep and thorough checks that they go through before gaining access to any of the jobs that they could take. So this is all done as part of the onboarding process.
Excellent. And you mentioned your ideas to make it global. So you see this. By the way, how big is the business today?
Well, we're currently operating in London, and we're currently operating in the UK, primarily in London and nearby cities, although we can do long distance jumps to other parts of the UK. But primarily that's London and nearby cities, which is our primary market now.
Got it. And so that is the geography. The size of the business you mentioned, you have done how many movements till now? 3,000 orders. Right?
Over 3,000. Yeah, we did over 3,000 sales in a matter of just over 24 months. So essentially just over 2 years.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So where do you go from here? Like, did you do any fundraising till now? How did you build this, or was it mostly bootstrap and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think just before we move on to that, it's very important to also highlight our primarily the storage part of the business, because and then we move on to overall what we do, right? Storage is actually one of the, moving and storage, they're both our primary services. And with storage, it's slightly different in a sense that our main value proposition for you as a customer, because currently if you need storage, right, what you need to do. Have you ever used storage yourself?
No, the storage is still, of course, Indians hog a lot of stuff, but still, it is a Western concept. No, I haven't used storage yet.
Okay, so the problem with storage is that apartments are getting smaller, right? In all the bigger, that's again why I'm speaking about the B2C only. There's a big B2B part element in there. But if we're primarily referring to the B2C market, the main problem is apartments are, more and more people coming to the bigger cities. They live in rent. They move more often from one place to another because there's so many people in the bigger cities. All the new apartments and residential buildings, their apartments are actually getting expensive at the same time, smaller. And what it means is that there's literally not enough space to even store your personal belongings. If you would have some skis, for example, there's not much space that you can store it. And that's the main problem. And whether, or even just storing your winter clothes, your summer clothes, your personal belongings, if you have kids, for example, and and what it means is that storage part, it becomes very scarce, right? It's a scarce resource. And our solution here is, if you now need some storage, if you need some storage, what you need to do, you physically need to, again, find some man-on-demand services that you don't know where to find them. Then they will come and collect your items and take it to a storage facility. You then come to a storage facility, you rent a storage unit, and you end up, signing some contracts, and you're paying a lot of money for that.
Right.
With us, you never have to even leave your, leave your couch. You just go online and say, I need 20 square foot unit. And then you book your collection. We come and collect everything right from your doorstep without you needing to go anywhere. We come collect everything right from your doorstep, deliver to our storage facilities, and as soon as we have your storage, as soon as we have your items at storage, you get a digital list of all your items. What it means for you is that you can view all the list of all the items that you store with us at any point in time. You can essentially come to us and say, I want, or book online, I want this specific box to be delivered to me tomorrow because I'm traveling somewhere, or I need my sofa to be delivered tomorrow because my friend is coming over to stay. And then we can deliver it back to you in a matter of 24 hours. So you don't even need to physically go anywhere. And that's essentially one of the other things that fascinates us, is that going every time to storage whenever you need something, you're wasting so much time, right?
Yeah,
that's wasting time, you're wasting money. It's crazy. And with us, you're essentially just pressing a couple buttons and we deliver. We're essentially becoming your virtual storage in your apartment, right? Imagine as opposed to you coming and opening the doors of your storage at home, you just go online and you have all the lists and you say, I need this, and it gets delivered to you tomorrow. Or you come back and say, I need to collect my whatever. I have some bicycle that I don't use, right? And then we come
Mm.
and collect and take it. And as soon as we move all the items back and forth, your tariff is dynamically adjusted in the sense that, we deliver something to you, we downgrade your tariff. We bring something, we upgrade your tariff. That's
Wow.
something that you're not able to get with traditional storage facilities,
No,
because
this is
even if you get half of your items back, you will still continue paying the same amount of money. And the main and most exciting part is that for the same amount of space, with us, you're paying literally twice as less in comparison to a traditional storage facility. So what it means for you is that with a traditional storage facility, not only you physically have to travel there back and forth every time, but you're also paying is just twice as much in terms of your rent of that storage space.
But why would the rental be less for you?
That's a competitive advantage that I cannot unfortunately share.
That's your
It's just
secret
because
sauce.
the business model works in a certain way.
No, yeah. But okay, you are using algorithms to make yourself efficient usage of space. That is why you are able to optimize your price. Is that
Yeah.
is that a
Well,
correct
in
way to put
essence,
it?
yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, people take a fixed size of a space and then they keep paying rents. That's how it happens in the US. I follow Nick Huber. I'm sure you know of Nick Huber, right? He
Yeah.
manages big content on storage businesses. And primarily, yes, you go and then you pick your own stuff and you again submit your own stuff. So I can understand. But here, there is an aha moment for me, which is like, you don't care where your stuff is as long as you are getting access to it whenever and wherever you want it, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like it's like
Exactly.
as long as you trust this vendor that they are taking care of your stuff. It's like you can opt to live in a very clutter free environment in your home, and you only need stuff when you need stuff, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's the vision, is that we understand that the world is moving in that direction where space becomes a very scarce and very expensive resource. And if you want some items, and if you go through your apartment now, you'll probably find so much stuff that you do not need on a daily basis, right? That you can use that space that you're actually storing for these items for way more efficiently. And what we allow you to is essentially get rid of that clutter and put that in somewhere to store. Just pay reasonable amount of money to storing them, while having the peace of mind that you can gain access to them at any point in time whenever you want it. And that's essential. And this is why we're such a big believers that in a couple of years' time, all the people that live in big cities, everyone would have a virtual storage or cloud storage, as we do. Because all the apartments in all these big cities are getting smaller and smaller, and these people would be having some storage space that they rent somewhere in order to gain access to all their items. Because consumerism is not going to get anywhere, and people continue to accumulate more and more stuff. Because you need to remember about what people usually store, right? And there are three main categories usually the items people store. Well, let's be honest here. First is usually it's junk. Right, it's items that they don't necessarily need. Second category is the items that have a certain asset value to it. Well, asset value, and the third category is the emotional. Asset value is like a chest of drawers that you have, or something that you don't want to get rid of, but you want to kind of have access to it whenever you need it. And the third one is exactly the one that you're referring to, is that emotional and sentimental values. Essentially, we help people to preserve their memories as opposed to just getting rid of it. Is it something that they have from their childhood, or something that they want to keep and store there because they have such a sentimental value? And it could be present. You cannot imagine the number of large soft toys that we store, because they don't want to get rid of it because they have such a sentimental value, because someone they love actually presented and gifted to them, and they don't want to get rid of it, right? However, it just takes up so much space at home. So we help them to get and preserve that memory and have it with us, and we can deliver it back to them whenever they need it, or whether in case they move into a bigger house in future, and then they can put it somewhere there, or for their kids. And again, and that's only the B2C element here. There's a big conversation and needs in terms of the B2B customers that we're primarily working on.
Did you say there is a B2B element also here?
Yeah, of course, because we're primarily speaking about the consumer segment here, right? But
Yeah.
consumers are not our only customers. There are a lot of
Mhm.
businesses, because the same problem that you have with respect to the space, the same problems the businesses do have, whether that's restaurants, whether these are e-commerce businesses, retailers. So because the problem is about that the space in bigger cities, and space is expensive, and whether you are, despite the fact that whether you are a consumer or a business. So
Mm.
that also essentially brings us to a lot of businesses that actually also need this kind of service to maintain their business operations in a most efficient and effective way.
Where do you find space? Because over time, as you grow, you also need more and more space, right? Is it somewhere
Yeah.
outside the city and in a God forsaken place? How does it work out for you?
Yeah, we're essentially working with, well, these are proper storage spaces and storage facilities for B2B customers that we work with and rent them, and that are super secure, super safe. We have all the insurances in place and everything. So it's just as any other storage facility. However, if they are not, they're not in central of the city, which allows our business model to work.
So they're not your spaces, but you partner with
Yeah,
professional space providers, and still you are able to offer them cost efficient
yeah,
prices for this.
exactly, exactly.
Nice, excellent. If I stretch my imagination, especially on consumerism and hoarding of things,
Yep.
uh, there would be a category where people would not want to hoard it and they would need it they would want to rent it out maybe. Um, but that's a different topic altogether. I was just thinking that
That's something that we're thinking and looking at. It's something that we may try. I know what you mean, like in the sense that you kind of storing some. You have a piano that you don't necessarily need, but you would rather rent it out.
exactly.
It's a good idea, and I think that's something that comes at the very core of this sharing economy.
Yeah.
And I think storage business is very fortunate to be at the very core, which could allow this to happen. But I think it's something we may look at further down the line, but not as of now, because we're still, we are quite early in our journey, and there's so much. I mean, we grew over, very quickly. We grew 5 times over the
And
past 12 months. So there's a lot that we can do with our current services before going and doing something else at the same time.
no, definitely, and that's why I get so excited. I'm getting excited because usually when I talk to prop tech players, you are like urban tech. It's beyond outside of your apartments and houses. When you look at boring businesses getting disrupted by players like you, nothing fascinates me more than this.
Yeah.
So I can imagine how exciting it must be for you to take this forward. Excellent. What's the business model like for both of them? Is there a SaaS play here? I don't think so. No, there's no SaaS play
Or
here.
who are you referring to?
I'm referring to both the businesses for movers, moving and packing.
Moving and storage. Well, essentially for moving services, this is a marketplace. Well, essentially marketplace, which allows, it's like Uber, right, or Bolt, which allows you to connect the people that need help with moving services with other people that can facilitate this and execute
Yeah.
that. With storage, essentially that's a subscription business model, yeah, in a sense that this is when well, such that we come and collect your items, store it at our locations, and then you continue paying us a monthly subscription every month.
Just curious, how is this monthly budget behavior of bigger cities evolving? Like I'll tell you, there are new players in emerging markets like my country back in India. People still do not have they cannot imagine paying to store, which is very common in the US, right? So what percentage of their monthly budget is spent on storage? Are you aware of it? I'm sure you are, because you are at the crux of this, right? So you can actually see what the purchase behavior or buying behavior is.
I think that very much. I think it evolves and increases year by year.
Increases because it's
Specifically, they are, yeah, because there are a number of factors that affect this, right? Specifically, if you're a consumer, because your decision whether you want to store your items at home with you or give it somewhere and pay, 10, 20 pounds per week to store those items because you want to use that space is more efficiently. The main logic here is that those square foot in your apartment, right, like 10 square foot or 20 square foot in your apartment, for those square foot, if you look at your rental monthly payments, you're paying a lot of money for that square foot. Do you really want to use that precious square foot to store some
junk.
clutter or you would rather send it somewhere? It's essentially those square foot cost hundreds of pounds, right? Or just send it and pay like 10, 20 pounds per week and just store your item somewhere that you can access anywhere, whenever. So I think this element and the need and understanding from the consumer point of view, it's actually coming primarily with a number of factors. Again, when we're referring to the B2C market primarily, I think it comes with the first factor that apartments in these bigger cities, they're becoming smaller, right? And which is essentially a trend of all the emerging markets, and primarily about the like big cities like London, Paris, New York, Hong Kong, Asia. You probably seen a lot of articles in the media of residential, super small residential apartments in Asian countries, in bigger cities around Asia. So that's the one fact. Plus, on top of that, is just the price that you're paying for that. So essentially, the price that you're paying for those. So these two factors, they come into play, meaning that the need for an external space to store your items is actually increasing. And this is why, as these certain markets continue to grow, the need would actually emerge and continue getting there as well.
Got it. No, I'm just saying that you can actually monitor human behavior, isn't it? Are
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
hoarding more and more? Are they spending more and more for these spaces and stuff like that? Cool, excellent. For the SaaS model, do they pay little extra when they have to get access to their stuff? Is that how?
Yeah, whenever they. Yeah. And we as we continue to grow, we are continuing to essentially reduce those prices because we are essentially the economies of scale comes into play. But overall, yes, because even if you would store your items somewhere, right? If you would store your items somewhere, you would still have to travel there back and forth, right? You would still pay for, either removal companies or you hiring a van yourself and bringing it items. So with us, you're still saving a lot of money when we deliver your item back or collect your item.
Got it. How's the competition in this space, Rashid? And could you let us know if there are interesting players just like you, or are you the first ones to be in this one?
No, they are, of course. There are some direct and indirect players that are in this industry. But I think what differentiates all of us is that our business model, in a nutshell, is slightly different for all of us, and therefore, with respect to the indirect competition, essentially, we are referring to all these traditional moving and storage businesses that are operating there for years, right? And it's just a traditional old school business. With a very high capex, with the physical buildings or people on their payroll, fleet of vehicles, etc. There are some other players, of course, that are our kind of direct competitors that are also trying to integrate tech into their services. But primarily, I would say that comes into those elements within the business model, because some of the businesses, they primarily focus on moving element, the other ones primarily focus on storage. Sorry, so they primarily focus on storage element. So, but every single of them have their differences with respect to their value proposition, with respect to their business model, with respect to their service portfolio or other products and services that they offer, with respect to their pricing. So all of them, of course, have their unique value propositions in there.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that there is no competition at all, but yeah, there's definitely one. But it's just a matter of comes back to the certain execution and the value proposition around there.
Which is the more promising of the two, moving stuff or storing stuff?
I think both.
Both.
I think both. I think both because each of this with each of the services, even within every single service, you also have a number of target segments that you're primarily targeting. So which in turn impacts on, for example, with storage bit, you can have different target segments, right? You can have students that are primarily storing during their summertime, where their school term has finished and they're going back home and they need to store over summer. So these are primarily, we're super busy with students now at this time of the year, as you may imagine. There are other target segments like families, for example, families with kids. So they don't store seasonally, but rather they store it while they live, right? Because they have a lot of stuff and they want to store their items up. For example, kids, like a lot of toys for kids. Kids grow up and they don't necessarily need those, but they don't want to get rid of these toys, and therefore they kind of put the items, their clothing, whatever, and store it with us. So that's just one example of different segments having different, I would say, it's not like different needs, but rather different characteristics with respect to frequency, usage, lifetime value as well, which affects the business model.
Give us a sense of the market opportunity for this. Like, how big is this market? Maybe you could talk about UK to begin with, and then what is the kind of potential that we see? What is the TAM, total addressable market? What kind of player, a big player? What kind of a revenue are we talking about?
Well, the market opportunity is huge, in a sense that in the UK alone, market is estimated to be over 2.5 billion in total for both moving and storage services. Globally, it's over 70 billion, and over the next 4 years, the market is estimated to reach over 100 billion, which is again driven firstly driven by a number of factors that are indicating very steep growth in the market and an increasing demand because of all those factors that I was referring to, right? Whether that's an increasing urbanization and people, again, when we're referring to the B2C market, urbanization and more people coming into the bigger cities, therefore they're just more mobile, and the people, their lifestyle is just becoming more mobile, right? Not many people actually buy apartments, they rent, and therefore they move from one place to another. Or at the same time, that quick access to something, because you still want to, whenever you buy something, you need to bring something to your place, right? And in order to do that, you need and you rely on man and demand services. With respect to businesses, any business that necessarily relies on man and demand, whether and here we're referring to furniture shops, sports equipment shops, it could be restaurants, like a lot of businesses, advanced films industry, a lot of them that as part of their business model, they need this. And this is essentially what we provide for them, is just that easy solution where they can come back to us and have this technological solution that could meet their demand right in time in a matter of seconds, and all the necessary support that they may need out throughout this. So what we see now is as we move on, the market is getting bigger and bigger. There are some differences with respect to the markets and with respect to certain cities within those certain markets, but overall we see quite a big increase and growth in the market overall in the world, which is again anticipated to come up over 100 billion in terms of total TAM over the next years.
You mentioned about your plans, first of all, fundraising, and then your plans for growth.
Yeah, we're essentially, as a business, we started the business in May 2021, and we bootstrapped for the first 12 months without any external investment or without even any paid marketing budgets, and we did really good results. We generated over 300-400 orders. We did over 300-400 orders. We generated over 100, I think, around the 170,000 pounds in total, which was a very good traction for 10-month-old business, which essentially allowed us to. And then we made a decision. We could have decided to grow the business organically without any investment to date, because we are profit making from day one, and we could have covered our costs. But because we really wanted to build something big and global, and we saw and identified such a huge opportunity globally, we decided that time is really important here, and having those resources and quick growth is primary factor for us. And this is why we decided to raise external funding. And because we had such great traction by then, we were able to get a number of term sheets, out of which we selected one, Hatch Ventures, that decided to lead our first pre-seed round. And in total, we raised £500,000 from 3 VCs in total. So that was Hatch Ventures that led the round, alongside Zaka from Europe and Metropolis Ventures from US. So, and that was essentially right 12 months ago. As soon as we closed the round, business transformed, because we had those resources and we had a very strong team behind it, and which allowed us to completely transform the business, and which, building all the processes, rebranding, launching our marketing acquisitions, a lot of things that we did over the past 12 months. That's like a tremendous work. And I think we're super proud of that result that we were able to achieve over the past 12 months, because we were able to achieve 450% growth in a matter of 12 months. And this is something that we're proud of. And this is reflected with respect to all the metrics that we have, whether with respect to the number of customers, whether with respect to the number of sales, with respect to the space that we rented storage, with respect to those partnerships that we were able to get and build, because we are, as a business now, we're partnering with a number of big brands, including Dister Village, Virgin Media, Software Workshop. We recently partnered with the biggest player in online flower selling. Essentially, it's a platform for purchasing flowers online. Website called Bloom and Wild, and they are the leaders in the industry, both in the UK and Europe overall. It's a business that raised over 140 million to date, backed by number one VCs around the world. And we now partnered with them, which allows us, every customer of ours, as soon as they become our customer, they get a box with flowers co-branded from us and Bloom and Wild, with a small note saying that, thank you very much for coming to us. We hope you liked your experience, and we hope to see you soon and again. And these are certain personal touch that we always add to, and we aim to add to the experience when you're coming and using Stackt, because we care so much about the customer satisfaction, and we care so much about the journey that you're going through with us, because this is something that you wouldn't really expect when you're using some other providers out there. So yeah, and having grown and having gone through this journey and having been able to secure all these big partnerships in place, we're now raising our seed round. And yeah, I mean, it's going well. All our VC investors, they're all committed, and we have most of the amounts already committed. So we'll be closing the round pretty soon. So yeah, we still have some space to participate. We're still, but for us, what's really important though is not just getting the cash, but rather having that smart money in place from those specific players and investors that could be a value for us as we continue moving forward and conquer the world. Yeah, so that's the vision in there.
Which part of the world are you talking about after UK?
Well, essentially, whether we'd go to Europe, and in Europe, we specifically look at at France and Paris. Whether that's US, and US we're looking to New York, Middle East, that's Dubai. So there's a number of very interesting and lucrative markets that we're currently considering.
Excellent. You mentioned about fundraise. Usually, since this is a business podcast and many of the listeners are also fascinated entrepreneurs, what has been your learnings about your go-to-market and growth strategies? What has worked for you to grow and scale? Like, is it partnerships, promotions, marketing? Could you shed some light on what?
I think one of the main things that I think we utilized very well, and that played well in terms of our journey, was the fact that when we just launched, because we didn't have any budget on hand, right? That we have now in terms of testing out different marketing channels, building them, which really takes time. I think our main thing that helped us to raise the first round and also to grow as quickly as we did was the fact that we were able to find those number of lead generation channels that were essentially organic for us. So we partnered when we just launched for the first 12 months. They were partnerships with a bunch of student societies at universities, partnerships with real estate agencies, essentially different channels that helped us bringing these leads in. And therefore, by the time when we actually went to and started speaking to investors, we were as a business, as a profit-making, sustainable, and growing business. And we already were able to prove, because we had those leads, we already executed and delivered a number of hundreds of jobs by then. So we had a very strong position in the sense that we came and said, look, we found a product market fit to a certain extent, right? Still quite early stages. Now we're way stronger position because now we did over 3,000. By then it was hundreds, but still you're essentially saying, okay, it feels like we found something. Feels like it works. We haven't even spent much money on it. We haven't even, it's not just that we poured money into marketing and we got the orders and we have a negative unit economics in place. It was actually, very straightforward. So for us, it was very important to prove to ourselves first, over the first 12 months, that the business model works, the unit economics works. There is a potential in there. There's actually real pain point that we solve, and there's a solution that takes care of this problem, and then start speaking to the investors, and then you have a way stronger position because then they have most of their questions answered, and their investment is de-risked to a certain extent, and then it's just a matter of to what extent the team and you as a founder or co-founders are capable of delivering on the promise and growing that further on, which is the primary thing. And this is what we done once we closed the round and did so much work with the team, which is now composed of over 15 people, in terms of the bringing the growth, bringing the numbers, and growing further.
Excellent. What has been your biggest lessons in this journey till now? Because fascinating growth trajectory, but I'm sure you had your lows along the way. So
I think not many people like to speak about it. So that's why when you look around, everyone sees the super happy and everything is always going super well.
Exactly. Along with the highs, what were the lows also, and how did you overcome those lows? Because this is very valuable.
I think they're always I think what's really important to remember that building any startup, and specifically in today's environment, it is a very it is a very dynamic environment, right? It's and you get used to it to a certain extent if you're strong enough and you go through the journey and you go through the number of times. It's a journey where you can everything may go wrong. Like at 1 month you are at the top of the hill, cheering and celebrating with your team. All your new monthly record or historic record in terms of your monthly revenue, and next month you have a problem with your acquisition campaigns and your revenue is super low. At the same time you're raising funding, so that's like a critical moment for the business where you need to come back together, bring the team together, and that the strong team spirit, which is the key to go through these difficult times and prove to yourself, as you did many times in the past, to go through this and prove to yourself, to the investors, and to your customers as well, and whoever believes in you, that you're capable of going through these difficulties. So I think you get used to it, and being adaptable is crucial. Specifically, again, if we are referring and tapping into the fundraising market now, the dynamics are changing very often, very quickly. And surely, I think it's not everyone is well in the startup ecosystem. Everyone is well aware of that. Raising funding is not an easy thing now, specifically in the current environment. So I think another lesson that we learned is now again, you need to adapt, right? If you see that the market is going down, and what's your long-term vision with respect to your fundraising, making those decisions quickly that okay, perfect. It may affect you, so that means that potentially it's better to start fundraising earlier and making sure that you have a healthy cash flow, a healthy runway in place. So I think these are the things that any startup goes really, but they are sometimes things that you cannot avoid. There's sometimes that you can avoid. So I would say the adaptability, decisions, trying to make mistakes as quickly as possible, because everyone does mistakes. Of course, it's good to try to avoid them, but it's better to do them early down the line as opposed to when you have a bigger, because the cost of those mistakes may be way higher further down the line. So again, there's difficult to kind of select one in particular, but I touched in different points, right? In the sense that whether whether that's really in regards to fundraising, whether with regards to your operations, whether it could be something related to the team, and it's not just once. It is a constantly will be happening, and that's what in the core of your startup and founder journey. And I think in order to be able to go through these challenges, you just need to love this, whatever you're doing, so that you go through these challenges enjoying the process, because that's just the ultimate inseparable part of this journey that you're going through anyways. So essentially, when you start your journey as a founder, you're kind of signing up that it will be a roller coaster, but you have to love that roller coaster so that you don't jump off whenever you have a challenge that you face all of a sudden.
So entrepreneurship often reveals your strength and amplifies it, right? And it's very exciting because you never know. It reveals itself, right? You never know. Oh, I had this in me. What have you learned about yourself in this journey, and what are those strengths that got amplified, and what do you think those strengths are for you?
I think I partially answered the question in my previous answer, in a sense that it kind of builds your character. And it's very, of course, specifically when you are a first-time founder and you're going through these challenges, you're learning something new every single day, right? Every single day, every single month, whether with respect to running the business, whether with respect to running the team, whether with respect to fundraising, whether with respect to building the operations, or your relationship with your customers, your relationship with the outside world and PR. So there's a lot of things that you learn. So that's an absolutely precious experience, and specifically when you do that for the first time, because once you go through this journey for the first time, then you can avoid certain mistakes, and you pretty much have a more clear understanding of how to navigate in a certain environment, and make certain decisions when you face certain challenges. I think answering your question is just I think it's, for any founder, you just also grow as an individual, as a character, because you accumulate all this experience, which is absolutely precious. I mean, of course, looking back at us where we were as an individual or as an entrepreneur a year ago, when we had like a team of 4, and now having a team of over 15, and you're facing way bigger decisions that you need to make today. Of course, you are a completely different person because you've gone through such a journey, so many experiences, so many decisions over the past X number of months. And that's a never-ending process until you start, right? So it's a never-ending process. It's like continuous and constant thing, which in turn makes this entire journey interesting, right? The people, it's like you're getting passionate. Well, doing business is not about being passionate when you're on the top of the hill, but also proving one after another every time to yourself that you're capable of going through these challenges. And right. I think this is what the key in there, because once you prove every time you have a certain challenge and you find you go through it, it gives you that certain, that spark in the eye that, man, I proved that I did it. And you have more confidence as you go and face any new challenges. You kind of have more confidence that, man, I've done it so many times in back in the days and in my experience, so I will definitely find a way to go out. And that builds your character as an individual, as well overall for me, because for any entrepreneur, I think personal life and business life is a very blended thing, right? There's no separation as such. You just live as you live, and this is everything that you do with your family and business. It's always like blended to a certain extent.
So true.
So it definitely builds you as a person and teaches you as a person and experiences you as a human being and individual.
Excellent. Well, this brings us to the end of a very, very fascinating conversation, thought-provoking one at that. I got really excited because I got to learn about a very boring business that that could be turned into such an exciting business, storage and moving and stuff like that. The technology could play such a fascinating role. I did not know. I'm gonna prepare a teaser for your storage bit, because that is going to get popular, because lots of people do not know about the interesting bits there. So that was a highlight for me. So thank you, Rashid, for sharing with us your wealth of knowledge and wisdom and inspiring us with your journey. Thank you for making it today.
Thank you very much, Ravi. I mean, it was a pleasure being here, and it's always exciting to share. I mean, I don't think that we have done we've gone through such a tremendous journey yet, but we've done quite an exciting journey so far, and everything is still ahead of us. But still, it's a lot of learnings and lessons that we learned on this journey, and it's super exciting to share it. So I hope it's useful. Even if it's useful and beneficial for at least a couple of people, I'll be happy about it. So, and thank you very much for facilitating this and all these questions and aligning in terms of the schedule over the past 2 weeks. So I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rashid. See you around. Bye-bye.
Bye.